A $3,000 credit card balance does not look like a disaster. The minimum payment might look manageable. Maybe $80, maybe $90. It feels like the responsible thing to do because the account stays current. The statement does not say delinquent. The late fee does not hit. The score does not immediately collapse. But behind that small payment is a repayment algorithm, and if that algorithm only removes a tiny slice of principal, the debt does not really die. It decays, slowly, like a radioactive isotope with an interest rate. This is the minimum payment trap. The most comfortable payment in the short run can become the most expensive payment over time. A minimum payment is the amount required to avoid delinquency. It is not the same thing as a payoff plan. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau says issuer formulas vary, but in its review, most issuers set the minimum payment at 1% of the balance, then add finance charges, fees, and past due amounts. So the payment can look small because most of it is not attacking the debt. It is first paying for the right to carry the debt one more month. That distinction matters. A payment can keep you current while barely reducing the balance. Let us build the cleanest version of the model. No late fees, no penalty APR, no new purchases, no missed payments. Start with a $3,000 balance. Use 21.52% APR, the Federal Reserve G19 rate for commercial bank credit card accounts, assessed interest for Q1 2026, February 2026. Divide that by 12, and the monthly rate is about 1.79%. Month 1 interest is $53.80. Now, apply a representative minimum formula. Interest plus 1% of the balance with a $40 floor. The first minimum payment is $83.80, but the actual debt reduction is only $30. The account is current. The debt moved from $3,000 to $2,970. Now, the hidden math appears. While the percentage rule binds, the balance update is simple. The old balance earns interest. The minimum payment pays that interest, plus 1% of the balance. The interest cancels out. What remains is this. Next month balance equals 0.99 times this month balance. In other words, the debt is multiplied by 99% every month. That sounds harmless, until you ask for the half-life. How long does it take for the balance to fall by half? The answer is about 69 months, almost 5 years and 9 months. After 1 year of minimum payments, the model has paid about $952, but only about $341 went to principal. Roughly 64% of the first-year payments went to interest. With the $40 floor, the final payoff eventually speeds up, but the full payoff still takes 132 months. About 11 years. Total paid. About $6,692. Interest alone. About $3,692. And remember, this is without new spending and without missed payments. This is not just our toy example. CFPB gives a similar stress test in its 2025 Consumer Credit Card Market Report. A consumer starts with a $2,000 balance at 29% APR, roughly the average APR CFPB cites for consumers with subprime credit scores. If the minimum payment is the greater of accrued interest, plus 1% of the balance, or $35, CFPB says the borrower would pay over $3,000 in interest over an almost 10-year period. Change only the repayment rule, and the outcome changes dramatically. Interest plus 2% of the balance cuts the payoff to a bit more than 6.5 years. Interest plus 4.25% cuts it to just over 4 years and less than $1,000 in interest. The balance was the same. The APR was the same. The difference was the algorithm deciding how much principal disappeared each month. The official payoff box on a credit card statement assumes no future purchases. CFPB says issuers must show how long it will take to pay off the current balance if the cardholder makes no further charges and pays only the minimum. That assumption is necessary for disclosure. But it is not always how life works. Groceries happen, gas happens, a prescription happens. If net new charges remain on the balance, the recurrence becomes next balance equals 0.99 times the current balance plus net new charges. At a $3,000 balance, 1% principal reduction is only $30. That means $30 of net new charges that remain on the balance can cancel the entire principal reduction. $50 of new charges can push the balance toward a higher equilibrium. This is why someone can pay on time for months and feel like nothing changed. The payment was real. The interest was real. The math just never gave the principal enough oxygen to shrink. This is where the video has to be honest. Minimum payments are not always a sign of bad discipline. Sometimes they are the rational choice inside a tight cash flow constraint. The Federal Reserve found that in 2024, 17% of adults did not pay all bills in full in the month before the survey. For adults with family income below $25,000, the share was 34%. 60% of adults said price changes made their financial situation worse. 29% had income that varied at least occasionally from month to month, and 11% said variable income made it hard to pay bills. In that world, the minimum payment is not just a math object. It is rent, food, medical costs, childcare, gas, and timing. The trap is not that people are stupid. The trap is that a short-term liquidity solution can quietly become a long-term interest engine. Now, zoom out. CFPB says credit cards are part of the financial lives of 208 million American consumers. In 2024, consumer credit card purchase volume reached $3.6 trillion. Balances exceeded $1.2 trillion. Consumers were assessed $160 billion in interest charges and $31.3 billion in fees. About 15% of general-purpose cardholders made only the minimum payment, and 20% of private label cardholders did the same. That share was the highest since at least 2015. So this is not a niche edge case. It is a mass-market financial mechanism. And the pain tends to be heavier for borrowers with lower scores, thinner buffers, or more volatile cash flow, because CFPB shows lower score cardholders are more likely to revolve and pay minimums, while Fed SHED shows cash flow stress is income sensitive. There is also an important counterpoint. Minimum payments can prevent a worse immediate outcome. Missing a payment can trigger late fees and, if the problem continues or becomes reportable delinquency, can lead to collection pressure and credit score damage. A minimum payment can be a safety valve. It can buy time. The problem starts when the safety valve becomes the default path. Because the default path can preserve the account while extending the debt. It solves the current month by selling future months back to you with interest. The minimum payment trap is not a mystery. It is a recurrence relation. Balance creates interest. Payment covers interest. A small slice of principal disappears. New spending may replace that slice, and the loop repeats. The key lesson is not that credit cards are always bad, or that every borrower is irresponsible, or that every bank is evil. The key lesson is simpler and more mathematical. The size of the payment is not the same as the speed of debt reduction. If most of the payment is interest, the balance has a half-life. And when a debt has a half-life measured in years, comfort becomes expensive. This is the math behind the minimum payment trap.